This episode of Untold Stories is sponsored by Public.com. You'll hear more about them later on in this episode. Another beautiful day. It's the holiday season. We're getting ready for the holiday season. Happy holidays to everyone. It's the end of the year where we kind of take stock in our lives. In our past year, was 2021 a washout for you? How is 2022 going to be for everyone? What is up? I am Charlie Shrem. You are listening and watching another awesome episode of Untold Stories, where together, all of us, we get to dive deep with some of crypto's most influential leaders, miners, founders, CEOs, crypto funds, Bitcoin OGs, everyone, to truly understand how this movement came to be, where we are right now, and where we're going. And really, where we're going is the hardest question that we have right now, and people are asking me all the time. And here to talk to us about all these different topics is Graham Jenkin. Graham, you're the CEO of CoinList. CoinList is a pillar of our whole industry right now. You guys have helped projects become where they are today, like Filecoin, Solana, Celo, Algorand, Dapper, Casper. So many projects that you offer full service exchanges, mobile apps, allowing people to buy, sell, hold, stake, become this huge infrastructure, multi-billion-dollar company over the years. We've had you guys on the show before, so it's good to have you all back and hear about what's been going on in the space in the last 6 months. You guys just raised like $100 million a few weeks ago, and you see every day more companies are raising. The amount of venture capital going to the space is immense, but then people are looking at this, maybe we're going into a bear market. But then just this morning, you have Jack Dorsey, the former CEO of Twitter, who now works, well, we don't know what he's doing, but he's probably working full-time on Bitcoin, coming out and saying that the Web3, as we know it today, and all these companies building around it are just kind of owned by the same VCs that owned all the companies before, and it's just a big kind of waste of time. And that threw me off a lot, because his biases are his biases, but at the end of the day, you have to be more open and understanding of who you're talking to, who your audience is. Graham, thanks for coming on the show. So many things.
Thanks for having me, Charlie. Good to be here.
Oh, man. How do you feel about
A lot of things.
Everything I just said?
Jack's comment, it definitely resonated with us in thinking about our fundraise, months and months ago, because, we went down the process of talking to a lot of the usual suspects in crypto VC and beyond crypto VC, thinking that was kind of the standard way to do a fundraise. And, it's like, hey, wait a second, guys, why are we doing this? We're a global platform. We're growing really fast in different regions. We're actually mainly growing outside of the US. So why would we talk to the usual suspects in US crypto VC? And not just that, but we have a ton of very active investors, VCs, crypto funds on CoinList itself who are active users and excited to work with us. So we thought, okay, let's change gears a little bit. We raised our first tranche with some of the existing insiders, some of the existing investors, but then the second tranche we ended up raising all from new capital outside of CoinList, outside of the US primarily, in the regions where we're growing the fastest, in Asia, in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East. And I don't know that we got to, unlike Sam and FTX, I don't know if we got to 69 investors, but we got up there. I think it may have been around 60. And so we kind of changed gears a bit. It's just like, why would we sort of go back to the same VCs that, everyone else is going to in the US when we're actually growing fastest outside the US. So I think what Jack was saying definitely resonated with us. And,
yeah, I think that term VC, I don't even know how you define it, because I mean,
right.
I don't consider myself a VC, but others would. I manage investments, family office. I'm a member of different funds, GP. So I guess technically yes, but I feel like calling yourself a VC is like kind of calling yourself an economist. It's just one of those things. It's like, you don't really walk up.
Yeah,
and
that's
say,
a cool way to look at it.
Yeah, it's like a different thing. There's no real title in there. And I would argue that what you're doing, what everyone's doing, is actually the guerrilla work. It's the out there and bringing in the activism that's changing the world in a positive way. Because pre-crypto, when you had investors on your cap table, you look at, okay, one or two of them are the active ones. These are the ones that are going to be
Yeah.
involved. These are the ones, and they almost like are active or involved on
Yeah.
behalf of everyone else. Other investors said,
Yeah.
"Oh, as long as John is on the board meetings and we're good." But when you have 69 investors in crypto, you know that they are investing for a very specific mandate and thesis, and they're all involved.
Yeah.
Whether it's climate change or changing the world or the orange wave of the new crypto voting block that we're going to have in the next elections. Like, Glove, I mean, you have
Yeah.
a political background too, so it's like I don't see that. I'm very radically the opposite, to be honest, and
Uh-huh.
I believe that
Yeah.
you need more VC growth and VC capital because how are you going to get us through the bear markets?
Yeah. I think, when I guess the way that I'm thinking of it is more in terms of global footprint. So we're working with some great investors in Asia, great VCs in Asia, like Tashkey, Finbushi,
I
and
love the
others.
Fembushi
And
guys.
yeah. And so, it's the same, you know, economist, activist type mindset that you're talking about, but just kind of outside the circle of kind of classic US crypto funds. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on outside the US, and that's kind of where we focus. But it is the same mindset.
So you have these huge platforms that CoinList is kind of acting as a backbone for all different types of services. You have on the user end, you have the ability for these new platforms when as their main nets are launching, you have huge ones like everyone's working on Solana these days, and everyone's working on. You have Dapper and all these different Filecoin. We just actually had Protocol Labs. We released an episode today with
Nice.
Protocol Labs actually talking about IPFS and is that
Awesome.
the is that what we're going to be using? Is that what we're going to be building like video and content technology on top of in the Web3? The pros and cons versus that. So you have all of these ecosystems, right? And you guys act
Yeah.
as this backbone. You need to continue growing to service that. You're also helping all the platforms themselves. Um, did you kind of foresee this is what the business model would be kind of now? Did you foresee that this is what CoinList what ended up being? I mean I wouldn't I personally didn't really foresee in 10 years on from the creation of Bitcoin that you'd have so many different blockchains, protocols, platforms with so many users and interoperability is the thing. Like I was playing around with a decentralized data cloud this morning and it says right there, interoperable with most major blockchains. What does that even mean? What's most major blockchains? It's like now in most major movie theaters.
It's crazy, and we didn't foresee so many things. Certainly not at the industry level, and in a lot of ways, not at the CoinList level either. Um, I think the way that I think about it, and this goes way back to AngelList days. We CoinList spun out of a company called AngelList. Charlie, I think you're familiar with it.
Yeah, of course.
It's a platform for helping startups raise capital and recruit and a bunch of other things. And going back to AngelList days, the thing that we really cared about is trying to accelerate the advancement of technology. And the best way that we know how to do that, and this goes back to the philosophy of Naval Ravikant, Babak Nivi, and how they think about things, founders of AngelList, is the way that you really accelerate the advancement of technology is to find those new emerging projects, teams, companies that are really going to push the space forward, whether it's crypto or any other space. And um, that's kind of what we focused on. And in thinking about the future and how things evolve, and not being able to foresee what CoinList is doing or has done, that's really still been very much at the core, is just finding those best new emerging teams and empowering them to be successful in a bunch of different ways. And the ways that we help these teams definitely has evolved and couldn't really predict. um, the first we thought we were just going to be running US accredited investor public
Sure.
sales like what we did with Filecoin. The market's totally shifted. It's gone a bunch of different directions. We're doing a lot of other things as well now. It just didn't predict that, but that's still that focus on finding those best new emerging teams that are really going to become the next, Solana and what have you. Uh, that's still very much at the core, and I just don't think that's ever going to change. I mean, that's what I care about. That's what I get up. every morning. That's why I'm here right now talking to
Yeah.
you. Is that that's what I care about, and I don't think that's going to change.
Between China, the US, India, and some other countries, the end of 2021 and 2022, there's a lot of like regulatory uncertainty. There's always been regulatory uncertainty. Let's be real here, forever.
Yeah,
When has there
sure.
ever been certainty? But there's extra, uh, especially with the SEC. It's like where we're going. You guys have been able to navigate that really well because CoinList launched, like you said, it spun out of AngelList when and you had to kind of follow the same, you guys knew which rules to follow, how to be better compliant because you were coming from already an industry that dealt with securities and stocks and capital and fundraising, so you're
Yeah.
able to navigate that and follow that wave really well. What advice would you have for my listeners? Because all my listeners are founding their own platforms. They're founding regulated companies. They're doing CFI. They're doing DeFi. They're just buying and selling Bitcoin, but they're worried about things like that as it relates to like, oh, am I going to spend all this money to start my business and then the law is going to change, or there's going to be some crazy regulation it's not going to affect my business to be able to run the right way.
That's a man. That's a tough one. I think I can't tell other people what to do. I can tell you what we
Sure.
do, and that's very much just focus on um, collaborating with like-minded folks, from a regulatory standpoint or from a governmental standpoint. Uh, we've been, as I mentioned before, like we got our start by focusing on U.S. accrediteds and running.
You chose the hardest.
Yeah, I mean, we tackled a lot of that stuff in AngelList. Like we in 2012, we realized that what we are doing at AngelList may actually not be completely above board. We didn't quite know about it. There was something called the general solicitation ban, where as an entrepreneur in the U.S., you weren't was not appropriate slash legal to communicate to a broad community of humans that you didn't know that you were raising capital. That was illegal to do,
Yeah.
and so we ended up thinking that we had this philosophy around the democratization of fundraising and investing. We wanted a broader community of entrepreneurs, a broader community of investors participating in what seemed to be kind of a niche industry or a backdoor industry closed from so many other folks that could be contributing. And so we kind of found like-minded individuals, like-minded folks on the regulator side in Congress who were trying to work on changing this through something that ended up being called the Jobs Act.
Yeah.
We helped sort of collaborate in the development of that and built support within the broader investor community around that.
That
And
was under Obama, right? That the Jobs Act was one of the first real like modern day laws that changed how startups and entrepreneurs can do business. It like reminded young people like myself at the time that America's still like an entrepreneur. Well, the world is still like an entrepreneurial society.
and the U.S. for sure, and the genius of the Jobs Act actually was that it was called the Jobs Act. I mean, who's going to say no to the Jobs Act? And so,
Congress loves
which
acronyms.
that's right. I mean, it's part of the problem with some of the stuff that's going on now is that the proposals that are being made, which a lot of these we definitely support. We're
Sure,
we're
of
doing the
course.
same thing that we did during the Jobs Act period, where we're trying to work with regulators, work with Congress people to try to move things forward. But the gap is in the marketing. They're coming up with
Yeah. Someone the other
names
day.
for it's like the Clarity for Digital Tokens Act or something like that. That's stuff, and which we wholeheartedly support. Just the marketing is a little bit off. You probably want to call it something like the Innovation for the Future Act or something like that.
Well,
But
I asked someone what they thought of the Build Back Better plan. I said, "What did you think of the BBB?" And they said, "I don't want to bring back the Better Business Bureau." I said, "It's not. There was never a
yeah,
federal bureau from the beginning."
yeah, great example. So yeah, I mean, marketing matters, so for better or worse, and memes matter, right? So we know that. So yeah, anyway, so part of the advice I think is, you know, focus on doing the right thing, primarily, and try to protect. If you're on the platform side, if you're on the protocol side, you got to try to work out how to protect your investors. Like, make sure you're doing the right thing by them, and try to work with like-minded people, try to not work with folks that are going to push against you. I mean, what's really interesting actually right now, I mean, just thinking about you and kind of the experience that you've had, the journey that you've been on is, going back to the global financial crisis, right? I mean, there were so many politicians back then, or emerging politicians, who were like rallying against centralized finance and too big to fail. And I'm not going to name names.
Sure.
And, they, in a lot of ways, they were like, came from the same mother as Satoshi, philosophically, right?
Yeah.
It's like or yourself, you know, and, I think, what's happened to those folks is that they've kind of lost sight of, I mean, maybe they never really believed in what they were
No, you're
talking about
right.
back then. And, now they're kind of on the other side, and they don't really recognize that the set of technologies was created to try to address the problems of centralized finance, too big to fail. And um, it's a little bit ironic. I mean, I think if they were actually honest and curious, then they would realize that the technologies that they're rallying against are actually have the same spirit, the same goals, the same principles that they had back during that global financial crisis time. But maybe they didn't have them then.
I mean, you talk about the invention of Bitcoin and the creation of that those years. I mean, that was 2009. You were in the midst of the financial
Yeah,
crisis, 2010, 2011. There was no. I mean, you can't question Satoshi's motives there. Why this was created?
yeah,
You have centralized finance pre, and then now you have post decentralized finance. Um, but we do look at it, unfortunately, sometimes with too much of like an American lens. You're Australian, and you have like a great Bostonian accent, Australian accent. So you're well traveled. You understand politics in a lot of different places. You work with, you talk about CoinList. Actually, the growth is outside of the U.S. I'm very proud that this
yeah.
podcast too is less than 50% U.S. listenership. I'm very proud of that. I always want to make sure
Nice.
it's more than 50% because Bitcoin and crypto is a global phenomenon, a global project. You deal with people in Eastern Europe, Turkey, Russia. There's like so
Yeah,
much going on, and we look at it through, and I see like Wall Street journalist, economist on Twitter. It's like, oh, Bitcoin is stupid because blah blah blah. But then I go and I look at what happened in Turkey, and it's like I have a lot of Turkish friends who have savings and bank accounts, and it's like it's insane to see a first world country where all of a sudden like 10, 20, 30% of your savings is just immediately wiped out. And then you have the government coming in and saying, oh, well, we're going to, we're just going to we're going to insure your bank deposits. But, you have fiscal policy without monetary policy. It's just a whole fugazi. The monetary policy and economic policy is being run through levers now by people who shouldn't be running them, and it's accelerating at a worse state because of coronavirus, and a lot of people are getting hurt, and even Americans here were getting hurt by inflation, all these different things. A lot of them are experiments, but we act and we talk as if we know what we're doing.
this right. I mean, it's who's going to vote for you if you're talking like you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
So, it's I don't know. I think there's a definitely on the financial side, on the monetary policy side, there's a ton of um, vested interests, existing power structures, centralized companies that the spending a lot of money on lobbying.
yeah,
That money is not being invested for no reason. That money is being invested for good reason. And as a lot of politicians, you've heard them say, it's like you got to dance with them that brung you. And that lobbying money, that money ends up getting put to use in some way. So
yeah,
um, yeah, and we've got a great alternative here, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a a binary situation. I think these two systems can coexist. Maybe you think otherwise, but I mean, I think having an alternative system, an alternative monetary system, I think it keeps it forces some level of honesty with the alternative, the existing, the incumbent.
yeah,
And the political party that I was working with in Australia a long time ago was kind of was almost like the Greens way back, and their slogan was "Keep the bastards honest."
Yeah,
And
that's great.
because they were the two large political parties in Australia, and this is sort of like the third party. And I think in a lot of ways that's the potential for this technology. Is to keep those large financial institutions, systems, to keep them honest.
Provide
And
an alternative to their
100%,
systems. Yeah, keep them honest,
totally.
have integrity.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a big part of the reason why there's so much. Obviously, it's a big part of the reason why there's just so much friction with respect to the kind of progress and innovation and advancement that's going on in our industry, and from a regulatory standpoint. So, um, yeah, I don't know. We'll get there, though. I mean, there's definitely lots of like-minded people within Congress and within large institutions, and I don't want to paint a picture like it's
No, of
kind of a us
course.
versus them thing. I think it's very nuanced. It's very complicated, and I feel pretty optimistic. There are lots of supportive people with respect to what we're doing as an industry in Congress and in banks and elsewhere, and we've got good relationships with folks across the board. So um, feel optimistic in the long term. The arc of history bends toward justice/crypto.
Yeah.
So,
You guys are bringing them in. You're like, you talk about the investors and politics and pension funds. It's all needs education. It all needs constant
yeah,
attention. So you guys are doing that, like, kind of guerrilla marketing and bringing everyone in. Uh, I mean, we talk about politics and the crossover political action committees, keeping people honest with integrity. I mean, if someone came to you with like a pack DAO, uh, could CoinList kind of support something like that as a platform? I mean, how would that work? Let's play around a little bit here. What would like a political
yeah,
action committee DAO kind of look like?
yeah. That's really cool. I mean, the kind of services that CoinList provide might be somewhat restricted in terms of what we could do with the DAO right now. Not from a regulatory standpoint, just from a functionality standpoint. Um, but oh man, I mean, look at what happened with Constitution DAO recently. I mean, the ability to get a group of people rallied around a very specific singular cause, and to get the kind of financial support that got allocated to that group, um, and to go forward with their vision. I tell you, that feels like a turning point in terms of recognition of the power of what DAOs can do, and DAOs that operate like a pack. I mean, that could be amazing. I mean, isn't that already happening? Our
There are
team's
a
already
few
doing
that
that
are
kind of thing.
doing, yeah, there are a few that are doing things like that.
Yeah,
Because I see also like a lot of politics comes down to like, even you have political action committees and you have different voting blocks and different charities that kind of have the ability to get candidates and lobbying firms. And at the end of the day, it's power through money. So money over history has become this like measuring stick for all humanity that we live on this earth, especially the last 100 years. It used to not be. Like we look back, money was just like for survival. Some people, yes, had wealth, but most people were, they had different priorities for life, and money was just a means to get there. You actually travel to a lot of places in Europe, and you see that today. People kind of like work to live. Where I was brought up, where
yeah,
it's like you live to work, and work is the only fulfillment. I challenge people actually to go out there and try to seek fulfillment, purpose that has nothing to do with work. When I got stumped, I worked for a company and my boss came over to me and he's like, Charlie, other than sports, family, or your work, what do you know a lot of things about? And I was like, shit, I know too much about Bitcoin. But but no, you gotta kind of expand your horizons. I would love to see that. But do you think potentially like what you said, bringing all that voting block together is what scares potential powers that be? Because now we're all rallying around like a single cause, and we have the ability in a decentralized way without money being that measuring stick now. Because in DAOs it could be like one person, one vote. You don't have the ability
yeah,
to have like graft corruption, money conflating it. Like you remove all
yeah.
that. You remove the trust deficit.
It's interesting. Just on that point, thinking about Constitution DAO, didn't the founder of Citadel come in and swoop over the top of Constitution DAO and
Yeah.
buy So I mean, that's kind of like a classic example of what you're talking about. It's like, hey, we can't let these crypto crazies buy this thing. I gotta step up for my boys and buy this thing, you know. So that was kind of interesting. But you know what? I do have to say, I think we've got a lot of work to do, and we're going to get there. We got a lot of work to do in crypto communities with respect to the same issue. You know, if you think about governance for any protocol that operates under a governance system. A lot of these systems are driven by, or voting within these governance systems are driven by or weighted by the number of tokens that you hold. And so
Yes.
if you're a crypto fund, or if you're founder of the protocol, you're going to hold a large proportion of tokens for that protocol relative to individuals or developers or what have you. And so, if you take a look at any kind of governance vote, you'll tend to see the same folks at the top in terms of who's voting for or against whatever proposal is out there. And those, proposals are heavily weighted
Sure.
by the same folks that are holding the same, large chunks of tokens in these protocols. And so I think we've got a lot of work to do in crypto to try to address the same
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
I agree. And so
Um,
my like non-radical, like I'll try to always present the middle of the road. And so one other side I would say, yeah, Bitcoin is the only decentralized network. Maybe one or two other ones launch with very, because this decentralization is a spectrum, and it's a path to, it's like
Absolutely.
seeking the enlightenment in Buddhism. But the one thing there, the SEC actually had something really cool a few years ago. I know it's kind of funny to say, but they were very smart when they said that projects take time to become fully decentralized. You remember they were like potentially going to give projects like 3 years or
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
And that really made me sit back and think for a little bit. And I'm going to say, I could see how projects could become where there's like a watershed moment of decentralization where the centralized
Yeah.
parties can't control the network anymore unless they take the whole thing down with them. And that's the
Right.
economic incentive, right? Like 51%,
Yeah.
51% of Bitcoin hash rate could come together to change Bitcoin, but then the integrity of the system would fail and the whole thing would collapse. Full decentralization, in my view, is when a project reaches that point. When it reaches a point where you have enough token holders, you have enough decentralization when it comes to distribution, voting turnout. Like you said, like most of these projects don't have enough voting turnout, but it's a time. So let's talk about that. Like, how long do you think? Some people will say you have to attach years to it. I like to attach this score, kind of I call token investor loyalty, TIL. And it's not a real thing. I made it up a few years ago, and it's like how I score things in my head. And it's like how many years do you go through bull and bear markets too? That is a huge effect.
Yeah. It's I think part of the way that we think about it, and we've got a program at CoinList that was designed with this issue in mind, which is that the way that we think about it is that your weighting, your importance, your TIL is it's weighted by a bunch of different attributes. If you think about um, any crypto protocol, it takes a lot of different parties, a lot of different contributions, a lot of different types of contributions to help that protocol be successful, to help it be decentralized. It takes developers,
It takes
it takes
time.
miners or validators, it takes stakers in a proof of stake context. It takes a lot of different parties. It takes folks that are willing to hold assets, like you said, through a winter. And so we got a program at CoinList that I don't know how much context you have on the nature of token sales right now, but token sales is so heavily oversubscribed. And we ran a sale
Still,
last week. We had 950,000 users in register for the sale. There were 20,000 spots available. So these offerings are just so heavily oversubscribed. Even though we're blocking US, blocking China, there's a global community out there that's like ferociously hungry to participate in these offerings, and that creates a problem for us. Because we want to ensure that these teams get high quality participants, high quality contributors to their protocol, because they're going to be launching when they launch. they're going to launch with those 20,000 folks holding their token. You want those folks to really be
Ah, so
high
it's
quality
not dumb
folks.
money anymore. So the 2017 ICO dumb money type thing, you're saying it's different now because it's so much more. We've reached a point where there's more demand than there is supply of good projects, and you guys don't launch 15 projects a day. It's like one a month, and you have to give a due diligence process, probably less than that. I don't even know.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, it varies. Some months zero, some months two, three, and right now we're kind of averaging around about two a month. And yeah, it's not like OpenSea or it's not like a big marketplace where we've just got thousands of these things, right? So we try to be very selective. We keep a high bar, and so and we've helped get great results for folks that are participating in these offerings. So as a result, so part of the way that we try to do that is uh, we create the opportunity for those folks that through this program that we call Karma, where we identify the contributions to different projects across mining, staking, developing, running validators, long-term token holders, as you said, sort of the TIL types. And we give those folks access to, what we call the priority queue,
Oh
which just
yeah, I have a Karma
dramatically
score
increases their chances.
on CoinList now.
You got
Yeah, I
what?
noticed that. Very cool.
Yeah. So we end up prioritizing folks that have a high comma score, and it's still a pretty new program, so we're ironing out a lot of the kinks. It's definitely not perfect, but I don't want to continue to I don't want to continue to reward the folks that already hold all the tokens, and I don't want to just throw in a bunch of random folks that are likely to just dump sort of the dumb money, as you said. And what we want to try to do, like our goal is try to get a high quality community, build a high quality community for these projects so they can be successful. And so Common helps us get there. Priority Queue helps us get there. There's probably better ways to do it, but that's one of the ways that we're experimenting with right now. It seems to be doing pretty well.
We're all used to investing in different types of cryptos, and we know that you can buy as little as $1 worth of any coin or token, but you can't do the same thing with stocks, bonds, and ETFs and all those other like traditional assets. And then if you can't do it all in the same place. Our newest sponsor, Public.com, it's a super awesome community where they take your privacy seriously, and you can get in there and trade slices of crypto, Bitcoin, all different coins and tokens, and also stocks, bonds, ETFs, equities, and it's all done in the same place. What I love about it is that you have all these different investors you can connect with all walks of life, gain confidence, ask questions, get the big picture with curated themes, talk to everyone, but they don't get involved in the order flow. They're not selling your data to all these other middlemen. And we got a very good special for you, my listeners, today. If you go to public.com/untold stories and you start investing with $1, they're going to give you up to $50 in a free stock, a slice of a stock. That's all you got to do. Download the app, $1, you get $50 worth. Public.com/untold stories, valid for U.S. residents, 18 plus only, subject to account approval. And make sure you check out public.com/disclosures. There's no investment advice here. These guys have been doing and amalgamating all of these different types of community, stock, bonds, ETFs, cryptos all together. Make sure you check it all out. Public.com/untold stories. Do you know what's interesting too? I noticed that because you're servicing so many countries and continents and different projects and everyone, traditionally, when you're talking about financial services, it was very like English dominated and people would have to learn English. But I bet you guys have support. You have support, you have different chat rooms and networks where you have communities in multiple languages from like Vietnamese to Mandarin to Spanish, everything. And that was traditionally never something you really needed. I'm assuming, and this is not part of my research, that you probably have offices and base stations in different parts of the world where you can service because it's not just about language, it's about context. People in Russia invest differently than folks from Argentina.
Yeah, a big part of the reason why we raised capital the way that we did was to make those relationships with investors, with VCs, with firms in the locations where we're growing the fastest, so we can plan out how we're potentially going to expand in those regions and get a presence. So we're not quite there yet. We're sort of growing into it, but we do have a global footprint in terms of our support team. Yeah, support team is absolutely awesome group of people. They're getting crushed right now. We kind of just had such dramatic growth this year. We went from 150,000 monthly actives at the end of last year. We just touched 5 million monthly actives last week. And so just the kind of growth that we've seen has been insane. So the support team scaling up. But yeah, we got folks all over the globe now, thanks to Natalie Funai, who runs the support team. She's awesome.
That's amazing.
And yeah, so we got folks in Russia. We can speak Russian. Actually, we've got somebody in Moscow. We've got folks, somebody in Turkey. We got folks in the Philippines. We got folks in Southeast Asia. We got folks all over the place now. So we've got an Australian who can sort of translate into Australian English as well. So yeah, we've got them everywhere. But yeah, and I think eventually we'll whether it's get offices set up in those locations or something. We're still trying to
Yeah.
think through what that strategy is. But yeah, it's a global footprint, and yeah, who'd have thunk it? I mean, like we were saying earlier, like we started this whole thing thinking U.S. market. How do we get how do we allow a team like Protocol Labs to compliantly raise capital amongst U.S. investors? That was 4 years ago. It's completely changed.
Oh man,
The whole
it
the
has.
whole the whole space has changed. It's By the way, it's also less about raising money now because money it's like a commodity, right?
Good
And
point.
it's very easy to raise. If you can't raise money, there's actually a problem. And so the issue now is community. It's how do I get something that as great as the crypto firms are that I work with, they can't bring me community. How do I get a community of people? And so most of the teams we work with they're not raising massive amounts of capital. They've already raised their 420 million or whatever, right? And so now they're focused more on how do I get 10, 20, 50,000 people holding my tokens when I launch. And so that's completely shifted. And then it's all non-US. It's non-US, non-China.
We
And
talk about
so
that
it's
path to
it's
decentralization too. Uh,
yeah,
the path to
right,
decentralization requires as many people as possible holding that token. And like you said, a lot of
exactly.
times the smart money is that money that's outside of the US because they're not just
Yeah,
throwing stupid money around that they have from stimulus checks or whatever, no offense to all of us. But um they're doing a lot more due diligence. They're looking into this. This is their livelihoods. These are people who go out and work and earn an income and they save a few $1,000s a year to be able to invest 2,000 into a project or speculate or buy a utility token or buy an NFT or try to be involved in a different protocol in a different way and stake. This is like the way that people are bringing themselves out of poverty, and that's why what we're doing is so important. It's not just about like throwing stupid money around for people. um
yeah, and there's such a hunger outside of the US for access to global financial markets and opportunity. And with that hunger comes a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of willingness to contribute. And uh, don't get me wrong,
of course, of
there's still a lot
course.
of degens or whatever, degens in the negative sense. And it's a lot of there's a lot of folks that just want to quickly dump tokens and everything else. But there's still at the same time a lot of hunger to get access to
And
the great opportunities of positive global finance.
I have to talk about this a lot because we're living in this coronavirus world where like your probably friends and family have been in lockdown for over 2 years in Australia, haven't even left their neighborhoods potentially.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a
um
long time. Yeah, I was
so
hoping
the
to go back this
hopefully.
Christmas, this holiday season, but yeah, it's not happening. So
I'm
yeah, it's
sorry.
all good.
No,
Yeah,
it's a really sad thing to not be able to be with family during holidays. I know what that's like. Um, you
yeah.
have this, we going back to that Jobs Act for a second. Part of that year, I think it was like 2016. I don't remember exactly the year. 2015, 2016, whatever.
I think it was
You
2012,
2012. Oh my God, I was like in
maybe,
college.
or 2013. It was back there.
Those years were the years where like the world was globalizing at a fast rate. The Jobs Act also was pushing towards like the growth of Indiegogo and Kickstarter, so you can have the global population be able to invest in
Yeah,
American production or production other places and things like that. Um, I loved that world. That world was filled with TV commercials of traveling here and traveling there, and I felt for the first time I'm a student of history, for the first time in history that the world maybe borders were going away. maybe things were like moving towards where it didn't matter where you were from, who you were, and Bitcoin only like further advanced that. Is that receding because of coronavirus? Will we be able to get back to that? And you work with a huge team all over the world, and part of the reason I talk about the world is because we forget that the world exists. We're so engulfed in our where we live now in our states and our local communities. We forget that there's a whole world out there of people that aren't the governments that control them.
Coronavirus, I think, represented a great opportunity to do the opposite, to like to bring everybody together, to collaborate, to get through this together. You know, and I don't want to sound too hippie or
No, I
or
like that way of looking at it.
but and I think that that has happened in some parts of it. It's just not what we read about in the news all the time. But you've got scientists collaborating globally in ways that hadn't really before, and uh, that's medical professionals doing the same. And I think obviously what we hear about um, is our lockdowns and
Yeah, we basically
quarantine and
invented
everything
the
else.
antiviral in the past few years. Like, we never had in the history of the world the ability. Like, if you had a virus, okay, good luck. You remember when you were kids, guys? You never antivirals, never antibiotics existed, but not antivirals. It's like in
Yeah,
mRNA vaccines. Like,
it's
it's
incredible.
immense what we've done in the past few years.
Yeah, yeah. So I think in some ways it's like coronavirus has like gelled a global community closer together, but not in the more visible
Yeah.
aspects of day to day, politics and governments and such. Which I don't know. I mean, we'll get there eventually, but it's just not the right time. So, but you know, I don't know. I mean, it's
Yeah.
there's a great opportunity with crypto to also do exactly the same thing, and that's definitely what we're seeing.
How
What
do you
we're seeing
stay
is
ahead of that curve, though? Because your business model was built around FTs, fungible tokens. Someone, a project launches, there's a billion, 10 billion, and then you're working on servicing each individual token, but with a heavy focus on fungibility. The token shouldn't, the understanding, especially with Bitcoin in the early days, was the coin or the token should never, uh, the holder of that should never affect the token itself. The token itself or the coin becomes a vehicle where it's like there's no, when it goes from one person to another, just like cash. So now you have this radical opposite world where you're dealing with non fungible tokens, where it's like the complete opposite. I mean, how are you going to integrate this with the business model? What are you guys going to do? What the hell are NFTs? Like, I still, I know, and I guess it's more of like a large question, but it's like, I'm still trying to figure. I was sitting across with my fun partner the other day, and we're like sitting here trying to figure out how can we honestly explain to someone and understand what the future is of these things if we can't understand where it is. It's so exploratory right now.
super exploratory. Where it's definitely a little bit outside of the scope of what it is what our mission is,
Yeah,
NFTs. But I mean, what I would say though is that um, a lot of the projects that we work with offer or have a platform that involves offering NFTs, and mainly in the gaming space. And
that's huge
so,
right now. Yeah,
some of the projects we work with, they have a gaming, it's essentially a gaming protocol or gaming platform that will have lots of different aspects of that platform. It's a marketplace. It'll be a gamers hub. It'll be like a layer two on Ethereum. It'll have its own kind of economy, obviously. And an aspect of that is, they're selling NFTs. NFTs represent some kind of asset within games within their ecosystem, and so that ends up kind of being the way that we
yeah,
participate in that space a little bit. But what are NFTs? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. I
yeah.
mean, I didn't really get it until I think this year. What clicked for me is that I noticed that NFTs are really, there's an aspect of flexing for sure. I own this. Nobody else can own this thing. It's with me. But the other aspect of NFTs that's really become interesting is that, and I was just talking about this yesterday, is that these things are kind of keys into a community. It's a pass to say, okay, I belong in this community. I've got the NFT, and now I'm able to participate in
Ah,
conversation. I can engage with peers who have the same kind of asset, and um, and lots of things get shared there. Things like conversation about what kind of investments they're making, alpha, all kinds of new initiatives. And so that's something that I didn't quite grok. I was thinking too much about the asset initially. So at the start of this year, I was thinking, man, these NFTs are just going to be way overblown. These things aren't going to go anywhere. What I missed is this community dimension, to say that I'm part of this tribe, and this tribe has a certain set of values. It's got a certain kind of moxie. It's got a certain attitude. It's got a certain brand, and I'm absorbing that into my brand. And so that's something I didn't quite understand until partway through this year. And um, I think that's why these things are going to continue to thrive. And we're just at the start of this whole process still, even though NFTs have been out there since, I don't know, pre CryptoKitties. But I think this community dimension of NFTs, I think, is going to be the thing that really powers it going forward.
it seems like the community has always been that weave through, and those
Yeah,
projects and platforms and everything that really cares for their community and keeps their community unique are the ones that have been very successful over time. And I just kind of want to
yeah,
um, leave you off with a question that I was kind of thinking about as you were talking is um, we talk about fast, smart money and dumb money. Do you think that do you think that a lot of people are investing in some of these newer like layer ones like Polkadot and Algorand and et cetera, because they feel like they've missed out on, ones like Ethereum and Bitcoin, or is that kind of like a narrative that the media portrays that's kind of stupid?
I mean, there are so many people that are participating in these offerings that you could come up with any scenario, and that scenario is
Yeah.
probably correct.
Yeah.
But I think there's probably a larger proportion than we know of folks who are participating in these offerings because they were early Bitcoin OGs, or because they
Ah,
participated in
yeah,
the
they want to do it
Ethereum ICO.
again.
Yeah, and we have, again, not naming names, but
No,
we've
you're right.
definitely seen that. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of folks on the platform who you read about in Bitcoin history books who are participating in these offerings. And um, but yeah, there's definitely a large community of folks
Yeah, I
that
was an
are new.
early investor in a project that you guys supported, Casper.
Yeah,
If you look at Polkadot, so there's hold on, I'll tell you right now, there's like three blockchains or four blockchains that were founded by the founders of Ethereum. So you look at Charles Hoskinson of Cardano, you have the
Cardano,
guys who
yeah,
did Casper, you have the guys who do Polkadot, Gavin Wood.
Polkadot,
That's three right there. So I mean, come on, three of the top 10 were founded by the guys and the girls who did the second one.
yeah,
So it perfectly explains your point. This is not a one and done crowd.
yeah. And I mean, these are innovators. Right? These are people that want to push the boundaries. They've got a certain perspective on
Sure.
where the space should go, and they're going to try things out. And that's how this whole space is going to move forward, man. I mean, we just need lots of smart people who are really trying new things, are not afraid to try new things. And it is a little bit difficult in this like tribalistic community. There's a lot of naysayers. There's a lot of people who they have a lot of holdings of a certain asset, and so they're out there shilling that asset, and they're uh, saying negative things about all the other protocols. Or what, there's a lot of that going on, which I think I understand why that's happening, but it
Sure.
definitely slows down innovation because people start to be like, I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing now. And so, but the more of those OGs or even like newer people come into the space who want to push the boundaries, the better off we're going to be. The faster we're going to get to a decentralized future. And that's what I'm excited about, and that's why we exist. That's what we're trying to push forward and accelerate.
To a decentralized future. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank you. Graham Jenkin, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the last hour and spending it with us here early morning, holiday season, craziness, what's going on in the world in a good way, of course. So I appreciate that. And you've given us, the listeners, and myself, so much insight and free knowledge. So thank you for that. And I implore everyone to check out CoinList. Uh, Once you start using it, you pretty much won't use anything else for all these types of different services that they offer. Check out the projects, check out how they do due diligence, and look at the comment. This is a piece of advice I give to people: is when you see successful projects or successful people, look at the common denominator. Try to gather as much data as you can and see what's common between everything. And it's very easy to figure out. We're not even in the first inning in this whole industry. Happy holidays, my friends and family. I love you all, Graham. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone for putting it
Thanks,
all
Joe.
together. And I'll see everyone next week.